they're fungus, they're toxic, they're poisonous, put them back down. And there were literally, I could name names, but I can't, you know? There were literally leaders last year very specifically targeting anyone who was trying to prioritize their horse over results.
So many people who I have crossed paths with are at a barn where they're trying to start over, and this is all they hear all day. You got on that horse yet? When you getting on that horse? Have you gotten on that horse yet? That just really does seem to hammer down the spirit. When you're wondering about if you have access, if you have consent, if you have wellness and sanctity in the body of the horse and in your body.
Welcome to Horse First with Lockie Phillips, a podcast about paying closer attention to the horse, to the work that we do with horses, and paying attention to what's actually happening in front of us. Not what looks good, not what we've been told looks good, because sometimes we slow down and sometimes we speed up, but we don't pretend. I'm Lockie Phillips. Let's begin. Today's episode is about the work that doesn't always happen out in the open, the kind of work that moves quietly from person to person, horse to horse, helping people find their way out of old systems and into something else. You could call it an underground railroad of horsemanship. Today I'm joined by Lori Halliday, a longtime collaborator who is now gracefully stepping into the emotional horsemanship teaching team. Lori, once again, welcome. Good morning, Lori Halliday.
Good morning, Lockie.
How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm excited and invigorated for this conversation.
You've been on the pod several times, and you're one of the people who people approach me and say they loved that interview, or they always look forward to our conversations. I always look forward to our conversations, so I'm looking forward to this one. But for those of us who don't know you, let us know a little bit who you are.
Thank you. And thank you for having me again. This is turning into quite an important ritual. So I'm Lori. I live in the Santa Cruz Mountains in California, and we have a small ranch here called Horse and Heart. And we have been living with horses here for over 25 years. And so, I really entered as a novice, and now I get to sit in kind of eldership with the herd. They've taught us so much. Living with horses teaches us so much. I also get to work with my best friend, my daughter, Lori Halliday. She's my business partner and really a teacher to me in many ways. And we offer programs here that are for intuitive horsemanship. So we're kind of going out on the edge and pointing to the human as the leader in terms of the one who gets to learn the language and do the work. And it's a very horse-centered life and horse-centered program, and highly aligned with your work, which is why we really practice all of the foundational work every day. We have some new horses here, and I knew exactly what to say to them. I didn't feel awkward.
Yeah. And you've got the
Thankful.
background in somatic energy work. You've got a dance background. You've got a gyrokinesis background, a Pilates background. You also have a history working with at-risk community members and in criminology. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yep. Yeah, that's all correct. There's a very curious mind in there. And also this study called the Axis Syllabus International Research Community, which is all about the body and movement and the anatomy. And that has been a deep sort of fundament layer teacher too, to be steeped in the biology and the anatomy in a way that I didn't know would be so important, that I would have so much large biological anatomy around me all the time. But we are behooved to know it and to become experts, actually, if we're going to live with horses.
That's right. The point I'd like the listener to understand here is that she's got chops. Mrs. Lori has chops. You know, you are someone with not
Thank
a
you.
singular and not a one track. You've got a multi-dimensional competency track record, and you're doing the work every single day. So, in light of that, recently I got in contact and asked you a really important question. Would you like to tell our listeners what that question was?
Yeah, I was so delighted and surprised. And the question was, will you join our team? Wow. I
Yeah.
mean, we couldn't be better friends, right? Like
Mm.
we're dear, dear friends. And so what an invitation for a next level adventure to really deepen in the work, to get even closer. What a privilege for me, Lucky. I'm thrilled. I really am.
Yeah, I mean that goes both ways, and I think the ultimate privilege is going to really land with the people and the horses that my team, and you and I together help match you with in service and assistance on an international scale is what I'm hoping, because I really see how you're able to assist there. And this comes at a time of transition for my business and for my teaching team, as my dear friend, also, Christy Foley, has made the decision to step back from the horse world and therefore service with me in the horse world, with us in the horse world. And this is not the dissolution of a friendship between Christy and I. It's simply the divergence of professional pathways, and wishing her all the best along the way. But in her absence, there was a space on the team. And though Christy's irreplaceable, the only person whose space that is yours. You've been to now either hosted or traveled to watch and assist, I think 8 clinics that I've delivered or more, or something like this.
Right, it's true. I'm starting to think that there's a pattern of staying close and following close and being vigilant in that way, to things that we say we love and that we say
Yeah.
are true for us. And I'm feeling the fruits of that. I don't even want to call it labor. It was real, genuine curiosity, real, genuine rapport, and what an amazing statement to say that if we stay close to the things that we are curious about and that we love, that they do flower into something fruitful.
That's right. So 4 years ago, you came onto my radar because you reached out direct on Instagram and said, "I'm sorry, did you just say you're coming to California? Like,
Mhm.
can you come and do a clinic for me?" And that was 4 years ago, and I did. And then I did another clinic, and then you kept showing up, kept showing up, kept showing up in different states, different countries. You showed up at my place, my home. We've had challenging
Mm,
times, personal endeavors. We're very close friends behind the scenes as well, but professionally, we stand in very close alignment and confer
mhm.
sometimes on a daily basis about our work in the field. And your comradeship and collaboration has already been long standing. So it's just a very natural step, I think, for you to step into our teaching team, where you'll be coaching, teaching people and their horses alongside us, and helping contribute towards the growth of emotional horsemanship and what we're doing here. So I'm so excited. I'm so happy that you said yes.
Thank you. And it's an amazing team. Really is.
I mean,
Mine not
hello.
Christy, mine not to Christy too. She's fantastic, and I'm looking forward to all the things she's up to as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a beautiful team, and I I just want to make also a comment around the timing that um, I've wanted to be involved in different ways and have been, and there is something about the timing that feels really right now,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and yeah, so I just want to note that so that we can yield to the timing of things when they're really supposed to come and when the time is ripe.
We entered the year of the fire horse recently. Out of the year of the wood snake, shed our skin. We are in a unique cultural moment to comment on the horse world. We can't comment on the horse world and separate ourselves from it at the same time. We are part of the horse world and we're commenting on the world that we're in.
Mm-hmm.
You and I got on the phone recently and had a chat about this, and I've been talking to some of my friends, my colleagues, and even my clients about this. I felt a huge shift last year in the horse world. If I have my finger on the pulse of my colleagues, on the industry, upon trends, sensibilities, tastes, movements around horse training and horsemanship, horse care, horse partnership, last year, there was a profound shift. Prior to last year, there was this moment where the sun shone. And I was even chatting with Leslie Desmond about this, a woman who spent her entire life with horses, and she completely conferred and agreed with me. There was a time in the sun, I think it started around 2021, 2022, and led into last year. A little bit like, let's make hay while the sun shines. And what got into the sun was the whole idea that the horses can come first. The whole idea that we don't have to rush. The whole idea that it doesn't have to be violent. It doesn't have to be demanding. It was this next wave of push for welfare, push for ethics, push for reform, push for revision. And there were very specific figureheads that emerged. They emerged like mushrooms emerge from a muck pile, right?
Maybe COVID gave it to us.
I think so.
It kind of overlapped COVID, and then we had our time in the sun, and we actually had a little time in the sun.
We had some time in the sun and we had some harvest, and it was like, wow, okay. Like, I've been working in the horse first space from the very beginning, and from the very beginning, it was always something that happened on the fringe of the horse world. It was always something you had to kind of find under the cover of darkness, because it wasn't ever something that was sitting in the forefront, in the center, in the spotlight. It was always adjacent to. And yet it was like, oh my God, I've always been adjacent, always on the fringe. And now here's this runway, this invitation to come and stand in the middle. And suddenly little guys like me are getting stood in the spotlight on huge platforms, talking about horse first approach and how we imagine that and how we practice that. And last year, the house of cards came tumbling down, in my opinion. A lot of people I met during that time in the sun and collaborated with during that time in the sun flipped over like a pancake on a Sunday morning. And their script changed overnight. They had the same language as me, as us, and now they were using that language to talk about how us are the problem, that putting the horse first is a problem, and that we've overcorrected. To a certain extent, I agree with them on the overcorrection, but they really sought to not integrate what we had learned by our time in the sun. They weren't seeking to integrate it. They were seeking to slash and burn and put that all to the side, all down the river, and go back. It was go back into the matrix, please. That's what happened last year, in my opinion.
It's very reactionary. It's very fragile. And it's very, it doesn't have resiliency, right? It's like the rubber band pulled and pulled and pulled and snapped back. And I've been chewing on it because we put a seed together about it. And then sure enough, right? You know, if you're focused, the things appear right in front of you. Sure enough, something appeared right in front of me. And it was about this exactly, a person who said, well, you know, if being an archaic, old school XYZ, you know, doing all of the trappings of cowboyhood, if that's bad, well, I'm just going back to that. They actually kind of said it. And I thought, what about the blend? What about what we learned? What about the harvest? Are we going to leave all the harvest here? That's just going to go to waste? Where's the metabolizing and the alchemizing of the things that work for you, that are undeniable? What about all the undeniable things?
Yes.
It's stunning.
Yeah. I watched a lot of horse people, private and professional, step out of traditional systems that they had identified could be a problem for the welfare of their horses. When I say systems, it means everything from horse keeping, horse training, riding aids, groundwork aids, tool choices, all the trappings of it. They identified that there could be some problems inside their system, inside their practice. And I really watched these people give it an honest go. Like the Australian in me was like, fair dinkum. They're giving it like a fair go and they're really trying it. And I watched a bunch of people go, well, that bit's really interesting, but that bit makes me uncomfortable. That bit's kind of worthy of explanation, but that bit feels impractical to me. Or I like this bit, but oh my God, that bit makes me feel my feelings. And that's really complicated. And then they fell down a rabbit hole and it's like things got more difficult rather than easy. And I think they might have expected or were hoping that a revision of their practices would make everything feel easier, make everything feel better, make something that felt imperfect more perfect. This is not about perfection. This is not about increasing performance. This is not about getting more. It's about doing the right thing by the horse. And that's often not expedient, not comfortable, and
I was going to
sometimes
say,
cause
yeah, this is about discomfort.
right.
Right? This is the kind of leadership that is uncomfortable. And because it's so new and we're very juvenile at it, and we don't feel the mastery and the results right away, we're kind of just giving up. We're kind of throw our hands up to it a little bit, and don't have the tenacity to sit in the tension and the discomfort of not
Mm,
knowing. Like I literally, Lucky, I like to dream. And so I was imagining that these certain people who I happen to still have in my feed, they're so good that I was going to, at what they do, and they have a lot of finesse, that they were going to just try, for instance, something different, like putting the tool down, putting the stick down. And I wondered what their liberty work was going to look like because there would probably be a ramp in and a ramp out where the stick even if they didn't have the stick, the horse would still act as if they did, because the horse would know that stick could come out anytime. And I wondered what the arc would be like. They'd put the stick down. There'd be, a time where the horse was still reactive. Then there'd be a little confusion time, and then they'd be on to something else. That's kind of what I thought. Those little effers never put the stick down. I thought,
mm.
I couldn't believe it. I had projected that people would be a little curious, like, you know,
What would happen?
what would happen? But yeah, there was actually a lot of fragility and a lack of the tenacity to try something, to feel awkward and uncomfortable,
Mm,
and for the sake of the one that you say you love.
mm. And more than that, it was another reaction. They identified that, let's say, the revision process to make it more horse first or to make it more ethical, to be more aware of a horse's emotional state, that this process was not perfect and would not make us as a person feel better straight away, and would not make the horse feel better straight away, because sometimes doing the right thing is uncomfortable, or doing better is uncomfortable and really difficult, and making transitions, cultural transitions, language transitions, training transitions is not just about learning a new tool or a new action. It can be a total revision of your identity. Like I'm learning how to speak Spanish right now in my 30s. It's like growing a whole new brain. It's
Mhm.
so uncomfortable. The analogy I have for this, for those of you who are Harry Potter nerds, now, I'm going to swear now, fuck you, J.K. Rowling. But anyway, speaking on Harry Potter, there's a scene in the second book where Harry falls off his broom and breaks his arm, and one of the stupid teachers does a spell that takes all the bones away, and his arm is like a flesh glove. And then he has to take something called Skelly Grow, and it had like all the bones grow overnight, and it was really, really painful. That's
Mhm.
kind of how I imagine it feels like when you grow a whole new system of relating to a horse, of communicating to a horse. You make something stronger, but the growth process kind of sucks initially.
Right. And we know that all of cells in the quantum behave differently when they're observed.
Mm.
And so when we're trying something new and someone's looking at us, the whole game is different, right? My ability to stay with my intention, my ability to remember and have regard for the impact, all of my kind of general foundational ideas start to rattle and shake and when I'm being observed by others. And I think most horse people are still in barns where they're being observed by others. And I think it's a part of the big jump is that they'll be seen and they're ashamed and they're embarrassed and
Of that process.
and that they think it's too maybe it's still too at the borderline or at the edge of our equine world community, the industries, to do these things. It's still too it seems crazy to me, but it's just still too radical to try these different things.
People tried stuff and had some mixed responses initially. They had mixed responses to an initial experience, a startup experience. An experience that's not designed for initial success, turns out, fun fact, didn't give initial success because it's not designed to give immediate success by its very nature. It's designed for a long arc, for gradual outcomes, for sustainability. So we're judging a turtle by its ability to climb a tree. And then instead of saying, oh, this is a different thing, this is a whole other thing that's over here, let me see what I can borrow, let me see what I can lend, let me see what I can integrate at my state, at my level, at my area, in my place right now, let me see what I can integrate. And then, the rest of it may be not for me right now, maybe it's for me in the future, or maybe that's for you, not for me. No, that's not the storyline. The storyline was all of that new stuff that popped up, all of those mushrooms that appeared on the muck pile, they're fungus, they're toxic, they're poisonous, put them back down. And there were literally, I could name names, but I can't, there were literally leaders last year very specifically targeting anyone who was trying to prioritize their horse over results, very specifically targeting anyone who was seeking to slow training down enough to listen to the impact of the training on the horse, anyone who was seeking to remove weapons from the training, anyone who was seeking to reduce violence, very specific targeted attacks. And these attacks were sophisticated. They were complex. They were wrapped up in packages that even shrouded and disguised what they really were. They weren't saying, I'm going to use violence and being anti-violent is the problem. That's not what they were saying. They had the sophistication to say, you got to be clear to a horse. You can't confuse them. But their version of clarity was really some form of violence. I mean, I could go on and on and on, but the end result was that the horse first approach was pushed back underground last year. So I went into 2026 this year with clear eyes and a totally new approach to my work, to my body of work, knowing that, okay, the time in the spotlight is over for now. Is that a bad thing? Is that a good thing? What say you, Lori? Is that a bad thing? Is that a good thing?
Well, how it hit my system when we first started talking about it was the way that any kind of oppressed peoples or animals feel when they find out that you've had your time on the open land, you've had your time with the sun and the wind in your hair, and now you've got to go live in the underground caverns, get back to the coal mines, little sister. And so I didn't love it. My animal body was like, fuck that. What? Excuse me. We're effing on this one, apparently.
Yeah, we're effing. It's already there. It's on the table.
So yeah, I felt resistance to that idea. Like, oh no, I'm not. And oh no, they can't. And I don't agree. But I've been sitting with it now, and yesterday I had this feeling. I was speaking to someone here in the kitchen. You know, all of the great things are said in the kitchen here to all the great thinking. Yeah, I said, you know what? This is not to be afraid of. We're not meant to be afraid of the time of the underground. This is where all of the great work has always ever and will always ever happen. It is
Mhm.
when we gather and when we sequester and when we become more intimate in our conversations and when we don't allow ourselves to be under the specter of every other effing body and all of the other myriad ways that people will remain in resistance and will get stuck in party lines. It's time to instead really turn the focus inward into both as a community, but individually into our own work. It is the way home. I was just writing a referral for Dr. John and Dr. Christina before we hopped on. Dr. John and Dr. Christina Amaral have the somatic energy school and the body centered leadership. And I basically said, like, they taught me to fish, you know, they didn't give me a fish, they taught me to fish. And so I was doing so much work, my own work, before I realized, oh, this is something I now can translate, that I can share. And so where better to do that than in the underground?
Mm. Mm.
Right?
And what we're speaking metaphorically about something that's actually very real. The metaphor of the Underground Railroad is not that we're mole people, not that we're pushed into dark places. In fact, my daily life is full of happiness and joy and relaxation and ease and connection and study and practice and care and love and rapport and refinement and gentleness and clarity. That's what my daily life revolves around. And all of those things in bigger horse culture are the things that are pushed underground in favor of hustle culture, in favor of pushing for results, in favor of extracting things out of people in horses, in favor of teaching people through shame, through fear, through intimidation, teaching horses through shame, through fear, through intimidation. All of those things are in the sun, and they always have been. They always have
Dominance,
been
right?
around dominance.
Dominance is popular. Like, let's
Right.
just across the board, dominance is popular. The
Oh,
dogs here. Yeah. Do-
yeah, by the way,
dominance.
listener, Lori has dogs in the background because she's like a woman who lives on a ranch and has a family and has a life. Like what you don't see on my camera is like my cats and my dogs running around in the background constantly. So don't worry about the dogs barking. That's so par for the course.
Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, it's dominance, right? It's the and the dominance in the culture is so up right now, and it's so it's not a very collegial ethos or energy in the political or in the world platform. And so it's easy to hook on to a dominance idea in a dominance culture and to hook on to ideations that make some people practices wrong and bad and elevate only others. And it's a trap, though. It's a trap to try to polarize this. And so what we can do in the time of looking inward, we could call it a time of looking inward, a time of self-practice, a time of gathering community. We can practice on ourselves. We can notice what's challenging for us in our work. We can continue to expand the rubber band and let it contract and expand and let it contract until it has the kind of tenacity and practice and emergence to be a more flexible system. But it is hard within systems that are very polarizing, right? Like that's the
Mhm.
vibe.
Speaking of polarizing systems, to give a more practical example of what I'm discussing, I came across a reel
Mm.
on Instagram this week. It was a horse trainer in a cowboy hat sitting down to give an interview. And he was talking about coffee. Now, I drink my coffee black, I drink it strong, and I take 2 or 3 cups a day, and like American size cups. So I take it black and I take it strong. But I don't say anything about that other than that's just my preference. And I have milk in the fridge always for people who want milk in their coffee or even sugar. This guy on this reel looked straight down the camera without blinking and in a low tone of voice, like he was discussing a cure for an awful disease. He said, when a man asks for creamer in his coffee, he has forgotten how to be a man. And I just went, whoa, the bros are not okay. Now, that's not about him. He is another type of mushroom. He has popped up out of a mycelial network that is mostly underground. Mycelial networks can be miles and miles long. A mushroom on your farm can be a sister or a cousin to a mushroom on a distant neighbor's farm through the mycelial network underground. And that's kind of what we're talking about. Here is just the fruit that emerges from a decomposing linked system that's mostly in the dark and that you mostly don't see. In my opinion, that's the toxic mushroom you don't want to cook. I'm over here being like a button field mushroom. You can like pick me and cook me and make like a fierce risotto out of me. Like I'm fine. Like I'm good. I'm probably good for you. But that's not the story that's being told by the guy who's like, don't put creamer in your coffee. And I'm a guy who drinks my coffee black. I just went, okay, I just blocked that and said to my algorithm, that's irrelevant. I don't want to see that content. But that's kind of what we're talking about.
It's dominance. It's like, how does that roll out into his horsemanship?
Right.
You're what kind of little sissy? What kind of, you know what? You can't, it's like the kind of bully mentality or the tough guy mentality is too closely linked to dominance, subordination, abuse. You know, it's like, it's a slippery slope. I hear you.
And it's a slippery slope, and it's also really boring. And
It's boring.
It's so boring. It's so tired. By its very nature, it's exhausted. It's played out. It's also a little corny. It's also a little not aware of how it pokes fun at itself as it's talking about itself. It's a little ironic and unaware of its own irony. It's like you are a caricature of yourself. Meanwhile, there are people across the world that I get messages from. I got a message from someone yesterday. I almost got on my cult yesterday after like the 4th training ever. He was like, yeah, do you want to get on? I was like, really? It's that easy? Oh, and there was no dust flying. No, I didn't, because I was like, let me slow down. But I had someone write to me, and someone who's not a trainer, maybe she's interacted with 10 or 15 horses in her lifetime. She wrote out to me and she said, that's what it was like for my such and such mare. I one day got on her when she was like 5 years old, and it was the biggest non-event in the world. And we had 27 beautiful years together before she went on ahead. And she's not the exception. She's the rule. There are people across the world, in fact, the vast majority of people, just like quietly train their horses really nicely. And yet the guys and women, men and women, who are standing in the spotlight, who are proselytizing the best way to do it, are not making it a non-event. They're trying to make it this big event through dominance and trying to push this narrative down our throat at various different levels, through various different guises, through various different cultures, various different tool uses. And I've got a nose like a bloodhound for it. I'm sniffing it out and saying, no, that smells like this, that smells like this, that smells like this. That's just the same thing in a different hat. You might have a cape on and you might wear a cowboy hat, but it's kind of the same shtick.
Yeah. You're onto something here, and I've been playing with this exact terminology, non-event, because I think it's a part of the underground mission. And one of the indicators we can notice in our relationships and in our horsemanship relationships is when something that might have theoretically or historically been a shit show or complex, have a lot of complexity to it, bring up a lot of fear. Recently, many things in a row we've called non-events. And so I'll tell you what, it takes a lot of practice, time, relationship, thinking ahead, imagining, In this case, I'm thinking about when the Mustangs came here, I was imagining what would happen on the other end a lot to try to prepare myself visually as athletes and other leaders do. And I think it is about strategic leadership, what we're talking about. And did a lot of preparation. Things fell apart. It didn't work. I felt the feelings, moved through all that, came again like a wave. Here it is emergent again. Am I ready again? And the timing was perfect, not my timing, the real timing that occurred. And it was a non-event. That Mustang who was rescued from a rescue appeared here without speaking. And her beloved young partner friend who was there, 2-year-old other Mustang, nobody spoke. Nobody called out. They did a little jog up the hill and then went right on to snacking as if they'd already always been here. And so there's something about the work and the persistence and the practice and the beauty of it that starts to demystify all the stories I was told about how horses behave and what they do and what to be ready for. And um, so much of it is total baloney.
That's what we're talking about.
You'll only know if you practice and if you can develop the maturity and the tenacity to stay with it. And I feel like if you're on this, listening to this podcast, it's likely that you are mature enough and have been around long enough to try something different and to practice, and to notice if you feel held back by it, you're ashamed or you're embarrassed by people who are looking at you or witnessing you, and deal with that yourself. Don't let that revert into a total reversal of your beautiful work. Let that be an instigator, right? A catalytic moment to like, whoa, what is that for me? Because I'm the leader. I'm the strategic leader who is feeling an impact. I'm not going to project that out and let my horse take the heat for that, or my partner or my child, or maybe myself. I need to understand how to digest that. That's actually not okay. And I guess ultimately it's courage, right? It's like, how can we stand up for ourselves, and how can what we believe and what we understand be held as relevant and valuable? It's almost like we have to learn to cherish ourselves and our work and our relationships first.
How can we stand up for ourselves, to ourselves sometimes?
Right.
Have that relationship to yourself, not in narcissism, not in excessive self-analysis. That's it. There we go. I landed the plane. Not an endless self-analysis, but
Right.
in the ability to notice what's coming up for you when it comes up, and how to
Yes.
move through that in a way that's not damaging to yourself or to others. You know, if you want to know if a horse person is part of this underground system that's looking for gentler ways to do things, easier way to do things, who are looking for more non-eventful ways to receive results from a horse. If you want to know who those people are, go to a boarding barn during the busy hours. Firstly, note who is not there during the busy hours and who is there during the non-busy hours. The people who go to the barn during the non-busy hours are often the people who are trying not to be observed by the spotlight of mainstream approach to horses. That's firstly, but not everyone has that ability. Second one is, you don't want to look for the loudest rider in the room or even the busiest rider in the room. You want to look for the one who's trying to find a quiet spot to just talk to their horse, who's working through something slowly. You want to find the person whom the railbirds are raising their eyebrows at and smirking at because they're going too slow, because they quote unquote do nothing with their horse, or they quote unquote don't ride their horse, or don't ride enough, or if they do ride, they don't ride well enough, or whatever the thing is, because the hallmarks of their work looks different to the spotlight that horse culture has us try to step into. And they're non-conforming, but they're reluctant in their non-conforming. They dearly wish for comradeship. They dearly wish for people like them. They dearly wish that what they're doing so quietly on their own could be perceived as normal and not something that's questionable. Ask me how I know this, because I was this guy, and I steward bunches and bunches of clients who are these people. I've got a mentorship group right now whom over the last few years, one by one, they all exited public facilities and have entered into private, personally owned, or semi-private facilities where now they are free from the spotlight. That's the Underground Railroad. That's what we're talking about. Not to put too fine a point on it, but think of cultural figures such as Harriet Tubman, who looked at what was happening to her people and said, that's not right. I'm going to get people under the cover of darkness across the border. On your first interview on this podcast, you talked about how you and your business partner and your daughter and my friend Ella literally escaped the mainstream horse world under the cover of darkness in the middle of the night, took the horses and ran. And that's what we're talking about. You ran so that you could go with your horses home and not do things to them that you were being forced to do to them, that were literally violent on these horses' minds, bodies, spirits, and on yours too. You had to escape under the cover of darkness. And
So
we are
many
here.
violations. So many
My
violations.
business, and now your business, because you've always been in this business, but you're aligning, your business is aligning with mine. We've got a Venn diagram overlap. We are not the same. We are linking arms in a small team to build community around people who are not caring about the spotlight, not caring about adoration, not caring about what it looks like to anyone else except their horse. And we're trying to get people through the tunnel and across the border. And the border is to a place where their results with their horses are so above reproach that even the spotlight, once it goes on them, says, well, I got nothing to say about that. How did you get that result? They would eventually ask you.
Right. It's this I'm going to say something you've heard 1,000 times, but so many people who I have crossed paths with are at a barn where they're trying to start over. They're actually doing the tender, fragile, emergent act of trying to start over at this age, whatever that age is, and trying to start over, even though they still want to hear the spurs a clinking and they wish they had on their right pants that made their butt look cute, and they're still longing for that world. They're trying to do the right thing for themselves and their horse and what they believe in their community too. And this is all they hear all day. You got on that horse yet? When you getting on that horse? Have you gotten on that horse yet? And that just really does seem to hammer down the spirit. When you're wondering about if you have access, if you have consent, if you have wellness and sanctity in the body of the horse and in your body, wondering about all these things and everyone else, as if it's kind of, frankly, just feels like rape culture to me. Everyone's like, did you get on her? Did you get on her? It's like, can you just stop? Like, just back off. I'm not getting on her. I'm in a relationship conversation, like we're dating and it's none of your business.
Hello.
But it's just hard. It's just hard, right? To be in
It
that
is hard.
constant question. And so I wanted to sort of nod to, like, I know that most people are in these places and when they try to make a change, they're under the specter and there is shame involved. And this is a call. This is a call to this kind of strategic leadership that accepts that we are not in the bright, shiny, golden moment of popularity, but that we are choosing something that feels true, aligned, ethical, integral for my
And
own
fun.
and fun, for God's sake. What if your horse, excuse me, what if your horse loved you? Like, what if you, no kidding, I mean, the horses here, they just clamor. They clamor around the people. They think the people are up to something good. They actually think we have good ideas, and we do. And it's
Yes.
worth it. It's worth
It's
it.
worth it.
I'm 57 this year. And so I've been at this for a long time. Thank you. And I'm just telling you, it's worth it. I was wanting it the whole time. When I started in my 30, whatever I was, I wanted it so much, the love, the closeness. I wanted the horse to know I was trustworthy. And then I did so much screwy dewy stuff. I had a red stick and an orange stick, and I had all kinds of things. And my daughter was clinging and clanging. She had things all over her body, and the horses were strapped and tapped and plugs in their ears. And I'm not saying that I was not a part of it and that I don't understand it. I'm saying I am a part of that mycelium. I am a part of the network. And there are other pathways. There are other pathways. And the thing that we wanted, the sweetness, the imagination, like Pippi Longstocking, where the horse comes to you, the horse seeks me, is absolutely available. And it is not a mystery. It has a little bit of an energy vibey woo feeling, but it's actually quite practical. It's quite practical. And yet it yields something that is a deep soul level style yearning, a heart, an aching heart yearning that humans have. And but it does take tenacity. And you do have to be willing to have your head held underwater sometimes by people who are yelling out, "Did you get on her yet?" And you won't necessarily be popular, and it might take you a little longer before you can get into your own barn, your own land, or into a safe haven.
Safe house.
That's right. But in the meantime, I just implore people to stick with it, that it is worth it. And if you don't believe me, maybe you should come over.
I totally agree, and this is how I see you fitting into our teaching team, because you were so much a part of that mycelium, that network of people who are strapping and tapping and earplugging and whacking and forcing and pushing. You and your family were so much a part of that world, deep inside that world. You had a runway to the center of that world, and you chose to step back from it. And your whole family and your horses have gone through a total identity change, and you have fruited yourself elsewhere, and you still get results, and you still enjoy your lives with them, and they still enjoy their lives with you. And there are still shadows on your horses' bodies, on their psyches, on their behaviors that come from that world, and you're doing the work every day to navigate that. And unlike that song by Lizzo where she says, "I did the work, it didn't work." In this case, the work works. It's very practical, it's very simple, but the inside game, the underground process can be lengthy, drawn out, quite difficult, requires transformation, requires faith, because you'll be in a dark place for a while and you won't necessarily see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's a long winter in front of a tree that's not fruiting. And you're like, is this tree dead or is it just dormant? Like, how long am I going to have to? It's like, hold, hold, hold. You will come up the other side. And that's what this is all about in our work now, in teaching people, teaching horses through their people, is shepherding people through the system and across the border, and getting them to a place where once they're on the other side, not only are they on the other side on their own, but they are part of a community where there are resettlement experts, people who know how to integrate now that you're on the other side of this issue, who to talk to, what to do now, what you can do now, what to dream of now, resettlement experts. But in the process along the way, there are people who will open your door, get you going, walk alongside you, and there are many safe houses along the way. And your ranch, Horse and Heart, has been a safe house for 25 years for people in this process. And what I'm hoping will happen as you join our teaching team is that your safe house will not be standing alone anymore, literally and figuratively, that you can join a small but robust network that interlinks and facilitates. And within our student body, that has already happened. We've literally sent someone from our student body to your safe house because there was nowhere else to go. You know, so where do you go ahead?
I was going to say, because there is a way out of no way.
Making a way out of no way.
Believe me, believe it. There is a way. And these lights on the pathway and these lights in the underground tunnels, they are a light. People are keeping those fires burning through the night. There are many of us who feel tenacious in it already and who are there. In fact, sometimes it might feel like being called in. Sometimes leadership might feel like, I think you need to do more.
Mm,
And then, right? And then boom, and then the leader can adjust a little and feel the energy of someone who's grounded and trusted, who has been living in the epiphany already. And so this is important that we who do understand stay with our work and that we actually are out with it.
mm,
We can't all fold, right? We have
Right.
to stay out and available because some people are seeking us, some horses. We have something someone needs. And so it's not the time to actually contract. This is actually a time like mycelium to kind of open and to move into the correct places at the correct natural timing. We can't shove this through. That's not how the system works. I've been
No.
paying attention. The system has its own kind of flow and energy, and it is still a call to stay with the work because the horses deserve it. They are so worthy, and frankly, so are we. We
You.
could have this in this lifetime. It is available. It is not a mystery. It
It's not a
is,
mystery.
I mean, it is a mystery because it's love, but it is also, and it is mysterious, but it's quite practical and doable. And I'm just not that special, right? I'm not a guru. I'm not that special. I'm a small brown woman who lives in Santa Cruz, and the horses and I have very clear, rich relationships that can be fun and wild and ballistic and calm and soothing and quiet. We have real natural relationships that I I I don't know that I could even have really dreamed would come to fruition. They did. They do. And now it's just like a regular thing here. And Lockie and people can feel it. They're like, wow, the horses they're different here. It's like, yeah, we're all different, right? We're all different in the places, the containers, the safe housing, the communities, and the edge of the work, the practice, staying in the edge of the work and the practice all the time, questioning all the time, right? We don't
All the
get to go to
time.
sleep on the job. We don't get to go to sleep on the job.
No, and I'm certainly not asleep at the wheel.
Yeah.
We all know that mushrooms need water, and mushrooms tend to proliferate after rain and require water in order for the mycelium network to fruit.
Mm.
What we found out was that there's a relationship between the water and the
Mm.
mycelium, because when the mushroom fruits, they release fungal spores into the air. Those fungal spores rise up into the atmosphere and make it easier for water molecules to gather around those fungal spores, making the water heavier, faster, and more likely to rain. The mushrooms help to seed the rain that helps them fruit again. And that there's a relationship between rainy climates and the amount of mycelium that is in the earth of that geographical location. There is a relationship. It's not that the mycelium is there because it happens to rain a lot there. It happens to rain a lot there because the mycelium is there. And just like this time in the sun we had a few years ago, there was a building where many spores were invisibly released. And it means that there were tens of thousands of people across the world who are saying, nope, I don't think I'm going to push my horse that far today. Nope, I don't think I need that much pressure today. No, I'm going to do a little bit more now. I'm going to take some better action now. I'm going to make that a little clearer. There were people across the world, tens of thousands of them in an individual way, who were releasing their spore into the atmosphere, into the quantum, saying, I'm going to balance my horsemanship now. And then fruit appeared in the form of
big name figureheads with podcasts and YouTube channels who are like, oh, there's this whole thing. Animals have feelings too. It's like, great. And then there was a gathering around them, but the conditions were already pre-existing. That's collapsed a little bit, but it hasn't collapsed because it's dysfunctional. It's collapsed because these very changes, these very phenomena we're talking about are cyclical in nature. There are times when it rains and there are times when it's a drought. There are moments where culture opens to look at what's inside, and there are times when culture has to close the door. The pendulum's always moving. And what we're in right now is a moment where the horse first approach is no longer in the spotlight. And for me, I breathe a sigh of relief, not because I'm not holding myself accountable. I hold myself accountable in every action I take with horses. And also this year, I am filming every single aspect of my work with my horses and with my clients. My entire annual body of work is being recorded and published. Entire annual body of work is recorded and published this year. So it's not because I'm not holding myself accountable. It's that when there's an opening and when it rains, this is disruptive. And when my work or the horse first people's work is in the spotlight and is getting attention, the quiet person in the corner of the arena amid the chaos is now the person that the chaos is asking questions of. Well, how did you do that? How did you get this result? What do you think about my work? How does your work reflect my work? And so the person who's trying to mind their own business and trying to release something into the quantum that's positive is the one who's being interrupted to answer the questions of the chaos, of the sun, of the people in the spotlight, those in the spotlight. This slows down our work as we have to turn around and answer the call. And now that we're not answering that call, I'm not interrupted and I'm free to now move people across the border with you, with Michelle, with Haley, and with non-associated colleagues of mine that I encourage on an everyday basis to push things through.
And
You
they
know, we're
are.
uninterrupted. And they are.
They're amazing. Yeah.
And we're uninterrupted now. And this is positive, and we can really do the work now, because there'll come a time when it will open again and it will rain because we've made our contributions, and they will ask us, well, how did you do that? Brief story. Years ago, I was in a public facility, minding my own business, training my horse, looking like a total wacko. And wacko times in the world means that the people who are considered wackos are now the people who are answering the questions about this time. We are asked during weird times. The weirdos are asked during weird times, what do we do now? Right? And so I was in a weird time at a weird stable, and I'm minding my own business and working with my horse. And I get raised eyebrows at best, bemused shoulder shrugs at worst, sniggers and sneers sometimes also, thinking that my work held no water, held no value. And then one day on a group trail ride to the forest, every other horse lost their shit except mine. And they asked me, well, how did you do that? And my honest and my intention was not to be snarky, but I think the impact might have been snarky. But my honest reply was, well, do you remember that stuff I was doing that you said was nothing? That's what I did. That was the solution. And I get that question at clinics all the time when I'll be explaining an issue. And I'll be explaining the issue while I'm having them implement the solution of the issue. And then they will say, as I'm explaining the issue, well, how do I fix that? And I'll say, you're in the middle of fixing that right now. I've had people on my farm, same thing with my own horses, explaining the issue while I have them implement the solutions to the issue. And they'll say, well, how do I solve this? I say, you're in the middle of implementing the solution right now. We are solution blind. Because
That's right. That's right. The solution blind part. I just want to go back for 1 second to this incredible analogies about the mycelium. Was really my imaginal realm. My mind could see all of that. And I could feel the mushroom inside of me, the very diligent grasshopper, the deep student, the ever student mind that I have. I love to study. I love to lead, but I love to also study. and I felt myself as a little mushroom turn my back away from the sun, and I felt the humus and the earth all around, and I felt myself looking inward and in this circle and communion and conversation with these other super steady mushrooms in there, and I felt the protection that you were speaking to. I could feel it in my own body that it is good sometimes to not always have to be regarded. And about this piece you were just talking about at the end here, um, yeah, it's this in invisible work, or there's something to do with vision and visibility, because I've been in the trainings with you where we're doing the exact work and the person says, how do we fix this, or how do we do it? And so to have patience and grace with ourselves, basically, as we're learning new things that literally we can't see. We can't see things. We're so, even I, for after decades, I'm still entrapped in ideas that I learned when I was very impressionable, when I just started. And they're still stuck in there as some kind of truth. And so that does create, like, this isn't jiving with what I already knew. And to have some grace and patience for yourself when you're in this confusion, but to also notice, like, wow, I am disassociated. Like, this man just in front of me and showed me this with my horse. Like, to come back to self of, like, what is it inside of me? Where are the pieces? When were these put into place? What was their purpose? Maybe they served. Maybe these served in the past. Likely these coping things served at some point, but are they serving now? And how can I be aware when I just float away and I'm disconnected? This is probably an important place, right? It's not to be disregarded, but it is to be noticed.
And that's the opening of the door we were discussing. That's how the door opens, is to have that moment where you realize, oh, I'm already across the threshold. I'm already begun.
Yeah.
The first steps have already happened. They are behind me. So where do I go now? So there's a lot of work ahead of us, a lot of work ahead of us.
Yeah,
And
I didn't know
it's
this was
really,
going this way, but it feels like such a call. What we're talking about is such a call to the work, to the practice, to self-study, to self-practice, and to community of like-minded people. It is a moment to actually choose. And you can throw a flag up about it if you want to, but you really don't have to. You could just kind of get back to work.
get back to work. And it doesn't have to be glamorous, and it doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to be perfect, and it doesn't have to feel good all the time. It just has to be honest and authentic and show up, because it's
I
all
had no
about,
idea. Yeah. I had no
it's all about,
idea how good the non-event was gonna feel. But the
yeah,
non-event is juicy. It's like a big
so good.
peach.
It's so
It's so
juicy
good.
peach. A juicy peach on a hot, cold, juicy peach on a hot summer's day. That's what it tastes like. Because
Mm.
it's really about my dedication out to quietly helping as many people as we can cross over into a different relationship, not just with their horses, but with horses overall, and with other horse people, and maybe even other people, but really about the horses. Can we cross over into a different relationship? Can we really cross over? Not say that we are, not give the lip service that we have, not wear the costume of or flirt with the identity of a crossover, but to actually really truly cross over, to make a path where there was no path, to make a way where you think there was no way. And that's sometimes quiet, sometimes not glamorous, but it's kind of fun and beautiful once you do get there,
And
right?
sometimes in the dark, right? Sometimes it's feeling like we're a lone wolf on a path in the dark. We pulled this card, Wandering Wolf Wisdom, before we started. It says, fearless, loyal, strategic leader, carving a path from nothing.
Mhm.
And the horse medicine is called Wayfinder.
Well, when I started my work with horses, I started it because I couldn't find the kind of work that I wanted to do with horses. So I figured out I'm going to have to make it for myself.
Yeah. Wow.
And we keep doing it.
You've been busy.
I've been busy.
Underground
Lori,
in the sun, underground in the sun, underground in the
mycelium.
sun. Keeping it natural.
Like on that, the last point I'd like to make on that, what I learned about coming home to my horses, to myself, and to my horsemanship, and literally to a home, to a geographical location, this farm hadn't been permanently lived in or really seriously used or disturbed for a good 30 years before I moved in. And there was a rich biome here. It was very stable. And mushrooms would appear at the end of summer really beautifully everywhere. And after moving in, all the mushrooms disappeared. And then I tried making a bunch of plantings on the farm, and we had an 80% die-off on the plants in the first year of moving in, because literally the land, the earth, the mycelium hadn't made its integration and its agreement with my presence and the presence of my horses yet. And we needed to give it time. And we gave it time, and my horses, with their soil building capacities, with their manure, because the horses are literally soil builders, we stabilized the earth against the horses so that they weren't degrading what they were standing on. So we lifted them up above the topsoil, so the topsoil lives underneath, put the topsoil underground and stabilized the top, and then fed the earth and then stabilized it. And within about 18 months, all the plants started to live. They started to grow, and the mushrooms came back in places where they had gone. And it was like the network had left us and then reintegrated us back into this environment with this new reality now that this land now holds 4 horses and a person and a much busier septic system, and there's soil building happening there. And then the birds showed up, and now the sparrows showed up, and they picked the linseed out of the poo, and then the sparrows are adding to it. And then the toads showed up, and then the fish showed up in my pond. And so it's a whole other reintegration period. But initially there was an 18-month period where there was drastic die-off on the land before we were reintegrated back in. And now that I feel like we're reintegrated, I feel a lot more comfortable and safe here. And the horses' behavior is better. They're less spooky. They're less disturbed. They're more at ease. They're more comfortable. The land is holding them better.
They're more grounded.
Literally grounded and reintegrated. Lori, thank you for being a guide, a door opener, a safe house, a quiet pathway, and a reintegration specialist for, let's say, the underground horsemanship movement for almost 30 years. Thank you for that. And I'm so excited to see what we can do together going forward.
Yes, me too. Okay.
Is there anything else you'd like to say today?
Well, I'm so grateful. And why I'm grateful to be on the team is, of course, for, personal reasons and my personal desires, and to be closer feels like, again, a privilege to get closer to the study, closer to the understanding. But what it really feels like that I'm feeling after this conversation is I feel the network alight. I feel the light in the field, and that we're in this web and this network, and we do have the capacity to pluck the web and send light into the web. And we must remember that we're not alone, right? Like, don't forget, little mushrooms, you're not alone. And I appreciate you so much. So
thank you. Love you. Thank you for doing this. Talk to you soon. Bye. That's it for today. If something in this conversation stayed with you, follow it. You don't have to resolve it. You don't have to explain it. Maybe just notice where it shows up in your work with horses. This was Horse First with Lockie Phillips, where we steady the room, widen the view, and make it a little easier to choose something better for the horse. I'm Lockie Phillips. Thank you for being here,
If you'd like to get in touch with me, please visit emotionalhorsemanship.com. If you'd like to get in touch with Lori Halliday, you can also get in touch with her through emotionalhorsemanship.com and book in with her as a team member of ours. Or you can go visit her in California by visiting horseandheart.org. That's horseandheart.org. If you would like to support this podcast, a simple way to do that is by leaving a rating or review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Amazon. It will help more people to find these conversations, and it would mean a lot to me. Horse First with Lockie Phillips is distributed by the Believe Audio and Video Network. And just a gentle reminder, the content of this show is for informational and entertainment purposes only. The opinions expressed are those of the host and guests and are not a substitute for professional, veterinary, or medical advice. I'm Lockie Phillips. Thank you for being here.